So I'm going to actually turn it over. We're going to just do a brief recognition, and I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Forrester, one of my wonderful friends and partners in the Red Cross. She has been with the Red Cross for 9 years, and if I have a question, that's where I turn to. So I appreciate her in so many facets, but I'd like to turn it over to her so we can recognize some of our volunteers. Tammy.
Good evening. My name is Tammy, and I am your Volunteer Services Representative for the Northeastern Chapter. That's the same 20 counties that Rochelle was just talking to you about, including your very backyard. And all of the services that she just told you that the American Red Cross did over the last week were done and supported by the volunteers in this local area. And I know that none of them are going to want me to ask this, but get ready because here it comes. I'd like all the volunteers that were able to be here tonight to please stand to your feet so that we can recognize you. And don't make me call you by name. Thank you guys, and while I won't call a name, I saw a few still seated, so thank you very much for the service that you provide to so many every day to meet those needs in our community. 93% of the services that we do are done by our volunteers, okay? Since July 1st, the volunteers in this Northeastern chapter have worked over 19,000 hours. 19,000 hours. Y'all need to give yourselves a hand for that. That's a great job. And just in case you don't realize it, the American Red Cross does blood services. They do health and safety services, which are CPR, first aid, life-saving, such as babysitting courses, swim lessons, lifeguarding. We also do services to the armed forces, which is military messaging, as well as providing services for the military members and their families before and after deployments. And we also do international services. None of that could be completely accomplished without our financial supporters, such as yourself in this room, alongside of our volunteer base. So thank you to each and every one of you that were able to be here tonight. We are so greatly indebted to you all.
Okay, I'm now going to ask our chairman, Larry Williamson, to please come. And Larry is going to recognize our wonderful board that I was talking about.
All right. First, I would be remiss if I didn't take just a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. We appreciate so much the gift not only of your time and your attendance, but of your generous financial support. The Red Cross would be nothing without that, so thank you. When you think about when I first asked, I'd asked a question about volunteers and some other information about dollars. And you may or may not be aware that for every dollar that the American Red Cross spends, 91% is invested in humanitarian programs and services. The reason that they can be so efficient and effective with your dollars is because of the gift of so many people giving of their time to volunteer for the American Red Cross. I've been given the privilege and the honor tonight to recognize the board members of our chapter. And I'm going to ask if you would please stand and just remain standing just for a moment. All right. If you really think about, when you think about the volunteer hours, and again, go ahead and stand back in. Get Larry to stand back. If you really think about the volunteer hours, when I asked that question over the last 9 months, 19,711 hours volunteer. Yeah. when you think about the volunteers and you look at these individuals that are standing up, I cannot tell you just how much that means, and we appreciate so much what you do. To have the privilege and the honor to work beside these individuals and to see the talent, their commitment, and their generosity is just above and beyond. And I just thank you for that, the Red Cross usually. Thank you, just everyone, for the gift of your time, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
And lastly, if you work for the American Red Cross and you're here tonight, please stand. Got Carolyn Stern, Eleanor Snell, Tammy Forrester, Josh Kane. Thank you so much for your partnership. Very important. We are going to move on to our wonderful community leaders that I was talking about again in our introduction tonight. And that is, again, why we're here. So we're going to go ahead and move forward into that. Our first one is very, very personal to me already. The first to second day in this role, one of the wonderful mentors I was able to meet up with was Norma Turnage. And we had coffee, and we talked for a very long time at length about the history that her family has with the American Red Cross and her late Fred. And their passion as a family toward the Red Cross is something that's just very, very passionate to them, and I'm very dedicated in making sure that we carry that into future years. She was so upset that she could not be here tonight. She tried to get her daughter free to come and join us tonight as well. Trevor had a soccer game, so unfortunately, it was, she said, the same soccer game that she had to miss it last year for. So unfortunately, their family could not be here, and most definitely wanted to pass along their regrets. So in her place, I'm going to give forward the Norma Turnage Humanitarian Award. This year, this award will be presented to someone, a resident of Rocky Mount for almost 35 years. Taught math at Parker Middle School before becoming a full-time mom and community leader. Began her dedicated career as a community volunteer at Rocky Mount Academy, where her children attended, volunteering for almost anything and everything that needed a doer or a leader. She chaired the RMA auction 1999 and 2000. She has so creatively and beautifully sewn together the first grade quilt for this auction for many years, which in turn has raised many thousands of dollars for the school. She served on the Rocky Mount Academy Board of Directors from 2002 to 2008. She is an active member of the First Presbyterian Church, where she has served as a Sunday school teacher and as Meals on Wheels coordinator. She served as a deacon from 2001 to 2003 and as an elder from 2009 to 2011. She served as auction chair for Virginia School in 2005 and 2006. Friends of Heart Committee for numerous years. Served on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club 1995 to 2000, and had the honor of serving as its first female chair for the last 2 years of her term. Has served on her alma mater's foundation board of UNC Wilmington, but that is most known for her giving of herself of the community so generously and unselfishly through many, many long hours and hard work, as having chaired Reach Out Rocky Mount's Fun Run for Charities 2011, 12, 13. Part of the mission of Reach Out Rocky Mount is to engage the community in promoting active philanthropy for all. And she certainly has accomplished this during her 3-year tenure at the overall Fun Run chair. Averaged just over 1,000 donors, 450 runners, and 215 walkers for a total of $1.4 million. This almost $1.4 million has reached far and wide, serving numerous organizations, programs such as support services for residential abuse program, after-school tutoring services for at-risk youth, dive masks for local rescue squad, operational support for our homeless shelter, Saturday Meals on Wheels, curriculum prevention for local women's abuse shelter, support for rehabilitation for adults with disabilities, Backpack for Buddies, assistance for shelter, utilities, heat for local families, support for home repairs for elderly and disabled homeowners, food baskets for needy families, HVAC unit for Habitat for Humanity, training for mentors for cancer patients, print and audio services for the visually impaired, funding for the Young Artist Competition, uniforms for high school band, assistance for the new exhibit for our Children's Museum, assistance for individuals for the YMCA programs, support for Special Olympics programs, the spay and neuter for adoptive pets, support for local college scholarships and purchase of computers for our local charter schools. And the list continues on. As you can tell, there's probably not a program, organization, or service that she has not touched in some way through her extremely generous hard work, time, talents, commitments, and dedication to helping this community and others. It is with great pleasure that I present the 2016 Norma Turnage Humanitarian Award to Virginia Brewer. Next, I'm going to call up Wayne Sears. And Wayne is a native of Rocky Mount, married to Audrey Calloway Sears, and they have 3 children, Peyton, Nick, and Josh. Earned a bachelor's degree in law enforcement from Mount Olive College. He is a graduate from Southern Police Institute, the University of Louisville, Kentucky, and the Prestige FBI National Academy. Served 31 years in law enforcement, rising to the rank of captain, serving as commander at the Rocky Mount Police Department. From 2007 to 2010, Director Sears served as the head of the FBI Safe Streets Violent Crime Task Force for the 7th Judicial District of North Carolina. From 2010 to 2015, he served as the National Security Director of MBM Corporation, and in 2015 became the Director of Security for North Carolina Wesleyan College. Director Sears served on board of the Fred Turnage chapter of the American Red Cross until 2011, and was the co-chair of the Finance Committee with Mr. Russell Proctor. This committee was the organizers of the Red Cross Heroes Banquet, of where we sit tonight. I bring you Wayne Sears.
Can you hear me okay? Back. Just to make a comment before I introduce our hero about the impact he has had, a comment made to me today. I had the honor of participating in North Carolina Wesleyan College's charity golf fundraiser today. Phil Ford was gracious there with us. Phil, what did you shoot today? You want to talk about it? He's ignoring that, I think. But I was talking to some people, and I'll tell you who I was speaking with. I was speaking with Don Musey and Roger Taylor, Mary Barnes, and some others. And I mentioned tonight about Don getting this award. And the first thing said was, nobody will ever know how many things Don Bullock has done behind the scenes and for his community, because he is that humble type of person. He has never looked for notoriety, he's always looked for results. And that comment was just made today, and it's such a true statement. I told Don I was introducing him. I think we were talking Monday, and Don said, "We'll make it short," because I assure you I'm going to make it short. And that is so much like Don.
I'll drag you off in a minute.
Our guest of honor tonight was born in 1931 to Josephine and Don Bullock, known affectionately as Dandy and Goddard. He graduated from Rocky Mount High School in 1949 and went on to North Carolina State University, where he earned an engineering degree in 1954. While at North Carolina State, he was president of Sigma Phi fraternity and was head cheerleader. There he called the attention of another cheerleader, Martha Cope of Raleigh. Don and Martha married in 1954. They have 3 children. Corby, who's a pilot for the state of North Carolina. and sons Trey and Bill, who now run Don Bullock Chevrolet. They also have 5 grandchildren: Casey, Aaron, William, Leanne, and Spencer. Don served 2 years in the Air Force in Wichita, Texas, and returned to Rocky Mountain to take over Bullock Auto Sales from his father. Don changed the name to Bel Air Chevrolet in 1962.
Enough.
I want you to know Martha Bullock sent me this, so whatever's wrong. Don maintained not only his business sense.
There you go. Stop now, stop now. That's good.
I want you to know if I step down, there is on this sheet at least 12 organizations that Don Bullock has either been the head of or the president of. Don Bullock.
Thank you. I'm very, very honored. But I know you didn't come here to hear me, you came to hear Phil Ford. So I promise you, I'm going to be very short. I made a few notes because I was afraid I would not be short, so I made a few notes here to keep it short. It's been a quiet weekend, Blake Wobegon. The men are good looking, and Wayne, how'd you get my notes? Here we go. It was a quiet weekend in Rocky Mountain. Spring had arrived, the sun was out, the temperature was perfect. It was a beautiful eastern North Carolina weekend. I was able to spend all day Saturday at my farm working, or as Martha would say, playing. Martha and I together enjoyed a quiet Saturday night. And Sunday I was able to attend Lakeside Baptist Church and hear a great sermon delivered by our guest minister. After a typical Sunday lunch, I took a snooze on the back porch and later had an invigorating workout at the YMCA. That night for dinner, I enjoyed my favorite meal. Hamburgers on the grill. Life was good, quiet, calm. Then came Monday morning. I got a shock of my life. Just after daylight, I opened the Rocky Mountain Telegram and discovered that Red Cross was going to honor this year's hero. And I immediately wondered just who would be the recipient, knowing that there are many, many women in this community that deserve to join this outstanding group of people who've been recognized in the past. To say I was surprised would be a total understatement, knowing that there are so many people who deserve this honor much more than I do. I've been fortunate to have a great group of people to work with and work with me and for me. And because of them, I have been in the right place at the right time on several occasions and been recognized on the state and national level several times. But please believe me, nothing means as much to me as this recognition tonight. Let me give you a quick story. And if I get emotional, forgive me. Several months ago, I made a purchase in a Rocky Mountain store.
Don, we can't hear you.
Sister. I made a purchase in a Rocky Mountain store. I gave the clerk my credit card and asked him if he needed some identification. He replied, "No, Mr. Bullock, I know you. You're one of the few people who have been in business so long that have always been good to everyone." That was the greatest reward I have ever received. This recognition tonight outdoes that. Thank you very much.
One more time for Don Bullock.
Don Woodard.
I'm here.
Making those long steps is not nearly as easy as it used to be. What a treat. It honestly thrills me and honors me to be able to introduce my friend and my hero, Phil Ford. I'm going to give you the canned bio that I received from Rochelle first, and then I'm going to give you my intro, and I'll try to make it relatively brief. And for Phil's ease of mind, I'm not going to tell you everything that I shouldn't tell you. So, my bio starts, or his bio starts, that he currently works for the Educational Foundation. That's wrong. He doesn't. But anyway, that's what it says. He now works for himself, which is the Fed Foundation is the fundraising arm, as you know, of the University of North Carolina. He has been an invaluable member of the Carolina basketball family for 25 years. As a point guard, Ford earned first-team All-American honors 3 times and was the 1978 National Player of the Year. In his 11-year stint as a UNC assistant coach, Ford was a tireless instructor, motivator, and recruiter. And I am going to ad-lib a minute right here. When Juno and I were talking with Phil before it started, Juno was absolutely right. Phil Ford single-handedly is responsible for the basketball game in college basketball that we see today, i.e. the 34-second shot clock. Dean Smith may have come up with the idea of the 4 corners, but Phil ran it to such perfection that they had to change the rules for college basketball. So we've got the person who's responsible for the game that we see today right here in our midst tonight. Ford's name is synonymous with his enthusiastic attitude, and it is that quality which made him stand out from many assistant coaches as well as players. He has been a part of the Final Four 5 times, 5 NCAA regional titles, and 5 ACC tournament titles. He has coached 10 first-round draft picks, including 1998 National Player of the Year, Antoine Jameson. Obviously, as we all know, Phil is a native of Rocky Mount and a 1974 graduate of Rocky Mount High School. Was a backcourt star on Carolina teams that won 99 of 124 games in his 4 years. Those teams went to the NCAA tournament 4 times and advanced to the championship game in Ford's final year. In fact, as a side note, Phil has said that he still has nightmares over that game against Marquette. As probably many of us do. As a senior, Phil won the coveted Wooden Award. He was also named the National Player of the Year in '78 by the United States Basketball Writers Association, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and the Sporting News. It says he is the current all-time leading scorer, but it's an old bio. He's almost the all-time leading scorer. He's now number 2. A fellow by the name of Tyler Hansborough took that from him. He saved for what was his greatest game, his last regular season game in Carmichael when he scored 34 points against Duke, and Carolina won 87-83 for all you Carolina fans. Ford also held Carolina's single-season record and career assist records until Lebo Cota and Kenny Smith took those numbers from him. Phil was the first freshman. And you know, as we get past these things, we look back and it's hard to realize that he is the one. Phil was the first freshman to ever start a game for Dean Smith at the University of North Carolina. He capped a brilliant freshman year by leading the Tar Heels to the 1975 ACC Tournament Championship. And again, Phil and I were talking about it earlier. For those who remember, Sports Illustrated's cover that year was "State is run over by a Ford." In the senior year, Phil was named ACC Player of the Year, and in both 77 and 78, he was given the Anthony McCavlin Award as an ACC Athlete of the Year 2 years in a row. He was taken in the 1978 draft as the number 2 player taken by the Kansas City Kings. In fact, Phil told me at the table they still owe him $65 million because they didn't get the same money back then. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year. He was named to the NBA All-Rookie team and to the All-NBA Second Team. Needless to say, Phil Ford has many accomplishments. Is very well recognized, not only by those of us here in Rocky Mount, but by people all around the state and all around the country. Now, you've heard all that Phil has accomplished, and that's usually where the introductions stop. But I want to introduce you to my friend and my hero, Phil Ford. I want to tell you who he is, not what he's done. Let me share with you a bit about him, the person. And as I said, my friend for the past 43 years. To begin with, Phil is still, has always been, and will always be Phil. And I hope you understand where I'm coming from in saying that. With anyone who has a bio and a resume like Phil Ford, it's easy to think you're pretty special, and it shows. But with Phil Ford, he's still Phil Ford, the 17-year-old I met with Richard Hicks in 73, 4, whatever. Still the same person. If you run into Phil, he's the most, you got to understand, this guy is probably the most, arguably, beloved basketball player that's ever played for the University of North Carolina. And that includes a lot of people. And I would dare say that Phil is probably the most beloved of all of them. And even with these accolades, Phil still maintains his humility, his approachability, his friendliness, and his willingness always to give. Hence, he is here tonight. Y'all, he is not supposed to be here. He is part of the barnstorming tour with Page and Johnson that goes around playing these exhibition games. He's supposed to be with them tonight. He turned them down to be with us. That's Phil. He gives of his time, he gives of his talent, and he gives of his resources. He is fiercely loyal. Fiercely loyal as a person to his friends, to his hometown, to his university, to his family. He's still, and for you that watch Carolina basketball, you'll understand what I'm saying. He still, after all these years and all these accolades, is pointing. He's pointing to people because he learned this from Dean Smith. You don't score a basket without an assist. You don't become a Phil Ford without an assist from others. And to this day, he's still pointing to others. You made me what I am. You helped. He still is deferring the recognition from himself to others. By the way, as I say that, for those of you that don't know, and I told Phil I was going to tell you this, I'm sorry, Phil, I got to do it. My business partner is a fellow named Jeff Collins that a lot of you know. He's our state representative from this area. What you might not know is Jeff and Phil are contemporaries. They graduated high school together. They played basketball together. Jeff was a co-captain with Phil. And Jeff has told me that if they had the three-point line back then, that he'd be Phil Ford and Phil would be Jeff Collins. One final thing that I'll say, a personal story that I think will add a little humor to this, and then I'm going to get down, because I know you want to hear Phil, not me. Do you know this is a Millardism, so you can understand where it might be coming from. My brother Millard, as Phil knows, is John. He's always a man with 1,000 words and quips. We were in Carolina basketball game, and it was halftime, so you can imagine where everybody is at halftime. We were in the men's restroom, and Millard was standing in line, kind of squirming a little bit because he needed to get up to the urinal. And Phil was at the urinal. And Millard gigged the guy beside him and kind of riding the danger. Phil likes it. He thinks he's in the four corners. I wish he'd hurry up. So at this time, without further saying or further introduction, I want to introduce you to the guy that we all care about and truly love because of who he is, not because of what he's done. Phil Ford.
Thank you, Bun. That was extraordinary. I mean, that caught me off guard a little bit. As he said, I've known Bun for most of my adult life, and I guess as he said, I was 17, 18 years old, so we've known each other a long time. I'd like to thank Rochelle for inviting me to be here this evening with you to speak on behalf of the Red Cross. Organization is very dear to me. Congratulations to Ms. Brewer and Mr. Bullock for receiving such a tremendous award from this great organization. You know, when you think of the Red Cross, the many things that they do, you know, to help individuals in dire need. In times, like Rochelle said, you dial 911, and at certain times when you don't have anything, anywhere to look or anyone to turn to, the Red Cross is always there. You know, Lord knows that I've been in times in my life, I know what it is to need help. You know, I know what it is to have to depend on someone else to be there for you and stand strong for you when you can't stand on your own. And I totally understand where the Red Cross is coming from. Wayne, I wasn't dodging you about asking me for my handicap. It was captain's choice, but I was 3 under. And the way I was 3 under, see, I judge my round by how many balls I lose. I usually lose 8. You know, that's my handicap. I'm an 8. I use 8 balls around, so I only lost 5 today. So actually, I was 3 under. But you know, I had last night when I was sitting at home. You know, I have a few speeches. You know, I go around and I talk to people, and I couldn't think of which one I wanted to use. And I just threw them all in this bag, but I don't want to talk about none of that. I just want to talk. You know, it's good to be home. You know, when I do get an opportunity to come to Rocky Mount, you know, I just start reminiscing about my time spent here. I think if anybody you would ask, any friends, former coaches, I would always say there's not another city in the United States that I would rather have grown up in than Rocky Mount. And I say that because growing up in Rocky Mount to me was something that, I mean, I had a childhood. I was very fortunate that my dad, both of my parents were public school teachers. my dad happened to be a big sports fan. He didn't play sports growing up because his dad was a sharecropper down in Marietta, North Carolina. That's just below Lumberton. And boy, did I have to hear that story about crying and all that. What he did for me to get me shoes and baseball caps and stuff. But, you know, he always drug me to sports. You know, he was a great, great dad. You know, I'm a 5- and 6-year-old kid, and I'm going to watch the Blackbirds play football. I'm going to watch Booker T. Washington play basketball. My dad, he taught at Frederick Douglass. He actually, that was an African-American school in Am City, North Carolina. He drove the activity bus, and I actually got to ride on the activity bus with the basketball players. And you know, basketball, and not only basketball at that time, sports was my entire life. And all of the many coaches that I've had, Coach Chesson is here, you know, and the things that I learned and the things that they installed in me, how to compete, and just, you know, I don't look at myself as being the most talented basketball player from this city. I think there were a lot more guys that were a lot more talented, athletic, than I was. Now, I don't think you will find anyone that was going to try as hard as I can. I'm not saying that they didn't try hard, but I don't think that anyone was going to try more than I tried, or that anyone was going to try to do what the coach said more than I did what the coach said. But I always had great relationships with my coach. I remember playing baseball here at Rocky Mountain League High in the 10th grade. And I think I was 0 for 32 before I got my first hit. You know, I played second base, and guys that I played with on the team still kid me about that. But you know, growing up in Little Raleigh, I grew up in the Little Raleigh area, right across the street from, I don't know what it is now, but then it was Annie W. Holland Elementary School, and there was a big field. I grew up on New Street, and there was a big field right across from where I grew up. In football season, we played football. In basketball season, we played basketball. And something that I don't see today that in the 60s that you saw a lot is a baseball game, a sandlot baseball game. It was nothing after school or on Sunday to see a fully numbered baseball team, even with a catcher, you know, not playing hard pitch, but playing drop over. So, you know, I was always into sports, and I tell kids today when I talk to them, and don't take this wrong, I really believe in order to get to a certain level athletically, I think it's a gift from God. Now, I think if you're born with that gift, I think it's up to you to work as hard as you possibly can to develop that gift to the fullest. But if you aren't born with a certain talent, I think that there are certain guys that can work, or girls that can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 18 years, and not be as good as Curry, or not good as LeBron James, or not good as Breanna Stewart. So I do think that I was born with that gift. I was fortunate to play Little League baseball here growing up from 7th grade, from 7 years old to 12th grade, had great coaches. In junior high, I went to J.W. Parker Junior High School. Didn't play football my 7th grade. I sat the bench, and sat the bench half of my 7th grade year in basketball until the guy playing in front of me got hurt. And when he got hurt, I started, and I didn't play second string again ever the rest of my career, or in basketball. But baseball was always my first love, believe it or not. To this day, my dad always thought I was a better baseball player than a basketball player. But I just happen to love baseball a little more. My oldest daughter married a guy named Bill Hall. He's a former professional baseball player, he's retired now. And they live out in Scottsdale, Arizona. So when my first granddaughter was born, my wife and I flew out to Phoenix to be with them. And I think he was playing for the Yankees that year. And it was just before training camp was about to start. He has this elaborate batting cage behind his home. And he was out there one afternoon getting in shape, taking batting practice, and he was, working out, and I sat out there and I watched him, I guess 30, 45 minutes. So after he got through, I said, I wonder if I can still hit that. Let me jump in there. So that's a true story. I jumped in there, man, and I got set, put on the helmet and everything. Okay, let's go. Pow! 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 And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe my daddy was right, Pow! Hey, Bill, how fast is it? He said about 40 miles an hour. He's talking about bursting my bubble. He cranked that thing up to 90. I'm not saying 91, 92, 93, 90. And before I could even think about swinging, the ball was past me. So I guess maybe I did choose the right spot. But, I was very fortunate to have great coaches. I had great relationships with all of my coaches, and that's something that I tell children when I'm speaking to them. I had a great relationship with my parents. My parents were the type of people that I could go to them with anything. It was nothing that wasn't, nothing that wasn't on the table that I couldn't bring up to them and talk to them about. But it was some things I just wanted to run by somebody else, by another adult, and just see what they thought. And I was very fortunate to have that with all of my coaches that I played for, the relationships that I had with them, especially my relationship with Coach Hicks when I was playing here in high school, and he guided me through some very different times. Bun can tell you, Bun was with me a lot during that my senior year when I was being recruited, and it was different recruiting back then. People could come and see you as much as they wanted to. They could call you as much as they wanted to. I think, Bun, didn't you actually sit in sometimes when a coach came down, sit in with me on a recruit? I think you did. But, there were times that coaches would come down and some of the things that they would say. And my mom was a French and English teacher. She wasn't a big sports fan. She knew that I played, but from the 7th grade through 8 years of professional basketball, my mom may have seen me play in person 5 times. That just wasn't her cup of tea. And she never sat in on the recruiting visits. It was usually Coach Hicks, my dad, and myself. Well, my mom, being the sports fan that she is, when she heard Dean Smith was coming to visit me, she wanted to sit in on this guy because the school was sending a dean down to talk to her. I swear, I'm not making that up. That is a true story. And I kind of grew up a Carolina fan. I guess it went back to when I was going to J.W. Parker Junior High School, and Charlie, who's a great friend today, we talk 2 or 3 times a month now, was playing at the University of North Carolina. He was the first African American to play there, so you can imagine in the African American junior high school, when we went to the basketball courts to play, everybody on the court, you got 10 Charlie Scotts out there. Everybody's Charlie Scott playing. Well, make a long story short, my mom sits in on this particular visit, and Coach Smith, and Coach Smith was the last school that I was really actually considering to go to come and speak to me. And I guess we talked for about 30, 35 minutes, and basketball didn't come up at all. Excuse me, Claritin's working. The basketball didn't come up at all. We talked about being a good student, being a good friend, race relations, some of everything. Now, every other school that had come to visit me that I was really considering was telling me how much I was going to play. Some even promised me starting positions. They had these elaborate charts, and they could move names around, and this guy goes out and you go in his spot. Well, when Coach Smith got to the part about basketball, he looks at me and says, Phil, I don't know where you'll fit in. You may have to play junior varsity. And I went, Oh, really? I don't know about Carolina then. Well, anyway, it was a nice visit, and we walked into the car and walked back in the house, and afterwards I was in my room after he left, and my mom comes in my room, something she hardly ever did, because she stopped cleaning it, she just started closing the door, and she looks at me, sits on the bed, and says she thinks that we can trust Dean Smith. And I don't know where that's coming from, but a woman's intuition and a mom's intuition is just off the charts. With my youngest now, my wife, I don't know how she knows, but I don't even try to figure that out. But she says, Big Phil, I'm a junior, I'm Little Phil, Dad is Big Phil. Big Phil told me that other coaches are coming in here telling you how much you're going to play, you're going to start. They don't know how you're going to play as a college player. You've had some success as a high school player, but no one knows, how you're going to be when you go to college. And obviously, Coach Smith wants you to play at North Carolina. He wouldn't have driven down here to talk to you. And if you play JV, it's probably because you aren't good enough to play on the varsity. And if you go there and you work hard and play JV your freshman year, and maybe you get to play in some games when you're a sophomore, and then when you're a junior, get to play in a few more games. Let's say, by some coincidence, there's an open slot there, and you are a rising senior, and you have an opportunity to start. You can be assured that Dean Smith won't be out promising another high school All-American your starting position. And you know how moms kind of kiss you, kind of walk out of the room, pisses you off, But it was right on. She knew exactly what she was talking about. But, and that was the beginning of a relationship with a man that just meant the world to me. I think anybody that knows the relationship that I had with him, the closeness that I had with him. I think he's extremely close to a lot of players, a lot of point guards, but the relationship that I had with him is extremely special. I remember when I came home after my sophomore year back to Rocky Mount, we lost to Virginia in the NCAA tournament, in the ACC tournament in Maryland. And we had a few days before we went back to school to practice for the NCAA tournament. Well, I come home and I'm still kind of mad and everything, so I go out and start playing pickup ball here in Rocky Mount and twist my knee. So I have to go back to Carolina. I limped in Coach Smith's office, told him I was home, I'm sorry, I twisted my knee, I'd never do it again. And he wasn't upset at all. He just said, that's fine, I'm glad you were working out. The following year, over Christmas, we came home a couple of days, and just before we're going to Portland, Oregon. This is my junior, that was my sophomore year. This is my junior year. Just before we're going to Portland, Oregon to play in a tournament called the Far West Classic, I come home, my mom won't even let me drive by, Jim. I didn't even bring a basketball home with me. If my mama would have seen a basketball in my room, she would have hit the roof. Well, we meet out in Portland, Oregon, and it's our meeting, and after everybody gets in, we're gonna have practice the next day, and coach is up on the board writing stuff, and he turns around and asks who all worked out when they went home. And everybody raised their hand except me. Boy, he read me the riot act. He was so upset that I didn't work out. Are you too good to work out now? My gosh. But it was all good. But what an incredible time at the University of North Carolina. I did go there thinking that I may have to play JV, but as it turned out, Bun didn't say it right, but what it supposedly said was I was the first freshman to start his first game at the University of North Carolina. There have been other freshmen to start. I think Walter Davis had actually started a game before I did, but he didn't start his first game. So I did start my first game, and boy, was I so scared. I was so nervous. I mean, when you have an opportunity to go to your dream school and just put on that Carolina uniform, something that you always, and we were wearing those canvas, my kids can't believe I played in those canvas high top Chuck All-Stars and those leggings, and run out of the Tony and Carmichael Auditorium. And, you know, I'm used to rocking my senior high school, man. This is a little above my pay grade up here. I played like it too. My first couple games, this is true, my first couple games, I was dribbling the ball down the court, nobody's around me. I hit my foot, it runs out of bounds. I mean, I have a wide open layup by myself. I go in, lay the ball goes straight up and comes straight back down. I'm thinking to myself, what the world? So I call home, and, you know, of course, my mom gets on the phone, and she starts, you know, making me think the other way, like, well, what makes you think you're so good, you're supposed to be doing everything right now? And she kind of reverse psychology stuff on me, and we went to Houston the next game, and I kind of felt a little better, and I think I had 22 points and 10 assists, and from then on things got a little better. But my relationship with my parents was so cool. I remember in the 9th grade, I was going to R.M. Wilson Junior High. I'm not even sure if that's here now. Is that still in town? What do they use that building for now? Is it?
Senior living.
Okay. I was hanging out with some guys at school that it was cool not to make good grades. And I have to say, that first grading period, I was one of the coolest dudes in school. And the problem was, you know, I had to bring my grades home. And I have never, ever seen my parents that mad. I don't know whether it was a combination of mad or disappointed, but whatever it was, I mean, I came so close to getting pulled out of all sports, all weekend activities. I mean, they were just ready. But what happened was, and the older I got and had kids of my own, it was brilliant. I mean, it was parenting 101. My dad taught at the Frederick Douglass I was telling you about with a guy named Tim Autry. And Coach Autry had moved on to become an assistant coach with Lefty Driesell at the University of Maryland. So one day, Coach Autry happened to be driving through Rocky Mountain. And he just happened to call my mom and dad just to say hello. He just happened to be invited to dinner. And it just happened that my mom didn't have everything she needed for dinner. It just happened that Coach Archer and I had to go to the grocery store. And the older I get, wasn't that brilliant? I mean, so, you know, we go to the grocery store, and he's still, he's retired now. He was down in South Carolina State. And every time we see each other, we still talk about that conversation. You know, we're talking about, you know, because I was a quarterback in football, and I played football, and I don't know how many of you guys know Frank Fields, but Frank Fields, when I was playing for R.M. Wilson, he hit me so hard, I said, I'm never playing this sport again. So that's why I stopped playing football. So, and then we got on the part about my grades, and I had to tell him, you know, I probably could do better. I didn't do as much as I can, and that's when he went into telling me something about being able to write your own ticket. And that's the position that you want to put yourself in. And what he meant by that was that if you're good enough to get a scholarship to a school, athletically, be prepared academically that you can go to any school that you want to go to, not a school that you have to go to because of your grades. And after that grading period, you know, we got that straight. And from then on, I did okay academically, and as I said, was able to go to Carolina. I did get my degree in 4 years. Boy, if I hadn't, I don't know what my mama would have done. You know? It's funny, somebody that was eating with tonight brought up the subject about going pro, and I told her I'd talk about it a little bit. When I was in college, you know, a lot of kids weren't going pro then. You know, that wasn't a thing to do. You may have had one to do it or two to do it. But what Coach Smith would do, he was very good friends with owners and general managers and coaches around the NBA, and he would make phone calls to see where a particular player would happen to be drafted, and if the player was going to be like a top 5, top 6 pick. he would recommend to that player and to the family that that player should probably go pro. So after my junior year, he calls me into the office and, tells me after checking, with his contacts, I'll be drafted really high. And if I wanted to go pro, this would be a good time to do it. And I sat there and he sat there and I said, well, who's going to tell mama? And I wound up coming back to school, But seriously, I mean, that's to me, that's such an individual decision. And let me try to explain. It was 1977. The next year, in 1978, I was the second player picked in the draft, number 2. My contract over a 5-year period was $1.25 million over 5 years. Now, that was a lot of money for a guy my size that can't dunk. I mean, that's my children's book. That's an advertisement. The kid who couldn't dunk, that's my children's book. But that was a lot of money back then. And we know money doesn't create happiness, but you can do a lot of things for your family that, to make them happy. Well, I guess when I came back, Penny Hardaway must have been 11 or 12 years after that. Penny Hardaway was the second player picked in the draft. Now, his contract was for $65 million. Now, I say I would have come back, but you never know what a 21-year-old guy would do. If there's an NBA team guaranteeing you $65 million, and if you happen to wear a certain shoe and drive a certain car, you probably can make yourself another $5 to $10 million. I don't know. I mean, I was enjoying Chapel Hill. I knew I was going to graduate with a degree in business administration the following year. But, that just wasn't for me. And I had a relationship with the players on the team when I coached there. It wasn't coach forward sometimes. Sometimes it was just feel. We'd go in my office, we'd close the door, and they just want to discuss something that an older guy, a big brother, may have been through, or something they may know about. How do they handle it? Just like I was a big brother to the guys that played when I coached them, just like George Carl and Charlie Scott. Those guys were big brothers to me. So a lot of those guys, when they were deciding whether they want to go pro, everybody knows the story that I stayed. And so everybody wants to come in and talk to me about the decision. But I don't think it's a wrong decision or a bad decision. It's a couple of things. People say that it is said that you should go because, let's say you get hurt. Well, I don't think that should be your main reason for deciding, because there aren't that many, or I don't know of any career-ending injuries anymore. Back in the 70s, if you tore your anterior cruciate or something like that, you were probably done. But now with reconstructive surgery, if you were good enough to be a lottery pick, a top 5 pick, you'd probably still be a first rounder, probably a little later than a lottery, but you'd probably still be a first rounder. Then people say that you should stay in school to mature. Now, I've only been associated with one school collegiately my entire life. And I can't speak for other schools, but I don't know how much maturing a kid does on Franklin Street on Friday night. I don't know how many of you guys attend to Carolina, or if you went to State Hillsborough Street, I don't know how much maturing goes on with that. So I really don't think that there's a good, way to decide it. That's just something that I think each individual should decide. And now, with the new NBA rule that you can actually put your name in the hat and get feedback, I think you're going to see a lot more college kids actually declaring to go pro. But if you don't get an agent, you can actually come back to school now. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. But I think college basketball is at a good place. I mean, what a year. I am a Carolina guy, so I got to talk and say how proud I am of the Heels. I'm 60 years old, and the only game that I have nightmares about is 1977 when we lost to Marquette University in the championship game. And I still have nightmares about that game. I remember having a jump shot from the baseline, and if I'd have hit it, we probably could have held off and probably played little four corners the rest of the night, but I missed that thing rimmed in. I made that shot 1,000 times, man. But that night it didn't fall. Now sometimes in my dreams I'm making them. I guess I've been having that dream so long, the good Lord has said, let me give him some rest. But it's at a good place, you know. I mean, that one game in and that one game out format, that's quite a format. You know, you think about it, I think it's a reason that, you know, the NCAA tournament is so exciting, you know, and the rules are made to make it exciting. And a lot of people, like my dad never missed a game in high school, in college. My dad would come to Kansas City, I'm on my way to a game, my dad would land on the couch. He's not big more going to watch the pro game. And I would try to explain to him it's different. You know, the games in college, the rules in college are designed to make the game fair. You know, they want Illinois State to beat Ohio State. You know, I mean, that's what they want. I mean, that's what makes it competitive. That's what makes it enjoyable. Whereas in the pros are competing against Broadway. You know, they're competing against plays. They're competing against concerts. They want to show and put the spotlight on players' individuality. Now, a lot of people think that the pros don't run plays. I should have brought my playbook. My playbook when I coached at the Detroit Pistons was that thick. Really, that's how many plays. If you watch a pro game, mostly everything that they do is a design play. It may look like freelance, but it is a design play. And guys are so big and so talented. Oh my gosh, it's just fun to watch. And the guy now, Curry, who's playing, I was telling Bun, I've been watching basketball for a long, long time, and I've never seen a basketball player like that. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys in here watch basketball, but it'll be worth your interest when Golden State playing, even if you don't like basketball, to watch what that guy can do, because what he's doing, you never seen that before in basketball. And the cool thing about that is, I think that he's expanding our game. It's already a great game. We have a great game here in basketball. But I think he's actually expanding it. He's taking it to another level. Because, you know, you have 5- and 6-year-old little boys now. You know, everybody want to grow up. Everybody want to be like Magic. Everybody want to be like Michael. But now you got 5- and 6-year-old little boys and little girls. They want to play like Curry, like Stephon. And 15, 16, 17 years now, you're going to have kids that are playing just like that. You know, Curry's not going to be the last one to be able to do these things that he's doing. And one day you're going to have 2 or 3 Currys out on the court at one time. Sometimes maybe 4 or 5 Currys out on the court at one time. So I think we're witnessing basketball moving to another level, and that's something that I'm really happy to see and be a part of. You know, this is I've been out of coaching for the last 5 years. I've started a foundation called the Phil Ford Foundation. We fight childhood obesity. Kind of backed into it a little bit. I was golfing one day with my cousin, who was an executive with New York Life at the time, and he asked me what my foundation supported. And I told him I'd never thought about having one. I never had one. And he said, well, you know, we got a program at New York Life that if you want to get started with one, it's a program we can help you get started. So I said, okay. He said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, give me a couple of weeks. And I couldn't think of anything. But I remembered about 6 months earlier, I'd had a camp over in the western part of the state for rising 8th graders through rising 12th graders. And it was at this high school, and we had 6 baskets. So in the mornings, we would have what we called stations. That's where we taught them to shoot and to slide the feet defensively and ball handling. And what I would do is I had like 6 coaches helping me, and they ran the stations. But what I would do is I would kind of go around each morning and kind of jump in to each station to try to get to know each kid individually, and each kid could say that I work with them individually. So one morning, I jump in the group with the rising 8th graders in ball handling. Well, the way you teach young kids to handle the basketball is you make it easy without looking at the ball. See, first off, they gotta realize you can't look at the ball. So everybody has a ball, and I told them to put the ball around their neck, just like roll it around their necks. And then I told them to do it around their waist. Then I told them to put their legs together, do it around their knees. And then I told them to open their legs and do between their legs, like a figure 8. Well, I had a little buddy up there that was so big, he was a rising 8th grader, the ball wouldn't fit between his legs. It wouldn't go between his legs. So as the week went on, I got kind of close to that guy. And after lunch, we let him play in the afternoons on teams to try to implement the things that we taught him in the mornings. And every time he was on the court with his team, at some time during that game when he was on the court, excuse me, I would always call his team over and draw up a play for him to get a good shot. And it got to be that everybody in the gym started stopping to watch when his shot came along, because they were, pulling for him to make the shot. Well, I called my cousin and I said, what about childhood obesity? Is there anything about not knowing it was a national epidemic? At the time, I didn't know about Michelle Obama. I didn't know about it being a national epidemic. I just said, let's do child obesity, thinking, we can do something in the state of North Carolina. Well, he Googles childhood obesity. Now, from a Google, and the first name that comes up is Dr. Eliana Perrin, who's a pediatrician at the University of North Carolina Children's Hospital. She's world-renowned. She's works with me in my foundation now. My foundation is actually connected to the North Carolina Children's Hospital, but she goes around the world giving talks on childhood obesity. And I met with her, and that's when she brought me up to speed about it being a national epidemic. I kind of asked her a little bit about that situation, about me drawing up the plays for Brody, and he, because the only reason that they stopped because he was overweight to watch the shot. And she was telling me that any positive feedback that kids can get is good, because I actually had to bring the camp together one day and kind of talk to them about, when you kidding, it's all good to have fun, but sometimes when you kid and it's kind of close to the truth, that's not kidding, that's not a joke, that's being mean. And that's the last thing that you want to ever be known as being mean to someone. But I'm enjoying doing that, working with that. There are a couple of private companies that I'm working with at the time. A basketball park I'm trying to put together, and I'm working with a mousepiece that takes your temperature in real time. Probably the most enjoyable thing that I'm doing right now is out of field forward basketball, where I do get an opportunity to go around and speak to a lot of kids in situations in Boys and Girls Clubs, and also I give individual lessons. Now this is so cool. I give individual lessons to elementary school kids and junior high kids, and I'm not one of the ones that kind of have a blame, put everybody in one thing about kids not learning how to play correctly, or kids not, being fundamentally sound. But to me, I mean, I'm the type of guy, like I said, I'm not that fast. I'm not going to outrun many people in a 100-yard dash. I'm fat now, but at one time I only weighed 170 pounds. I've never dunked the basketball. That's true. I mean, I don't have that athleticism. But fundamentals are extremely important to me. And I do think that's something in the game today that we're kind of missing. And the look on a little third grader's face, that's a right-handed little girl, and then when you try to and you teach her to do a left-handed layup, and the look on her face when she gets it, all the money in the world can't pay for that. And that's been very, very enjoyable for me. I do enjoy doing things to give back, because in my lifetime, I've definitely had people give back to me with trials, and tribulations that I've had during my lifetime. I don't know where I would be if people didn't give back to me at times, as I said earlier, that I couldn't take care of myself, from addiction to just being a man, to just so many different things. You know, I've had people to step up to me and love me and get me on the right track. I'm a happy member now of St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. I'm still getting worked on in that area. I love Sunday school. My Sunday school teacher, we have a nice Sunday school now. It's a man's course that we go to every morning now for the last couple of years. But at one time, the preacher's wife, it was a mixed adult Sunday school, and she would start talking, and you know, I'm the type of guy I question. You know, I don't know about this one. Are you sure this is what that means? And she would always go, Brother Ford, we're going to just pray for you. But I'm really enjoying that, and I'm really at a great place in my life right now. And I'm so happy to be back in Rocky Mount. As Bun was telling you earlier, I've been fortunate enough to be touring with the seniors from the 4 ACC schools. And for you, those of you that don't know what barnstorming is, I even did it when I was back in college. I mean, Lenny Rosenbluth did it back in the 50s, but it's done differently now. But the seniors from North Carolina State, Wake Forest, and Duke get together, and they go to different high schools around the state, and they play games against some local guys, and they raise money for the school and for the Ronald McDonald House, and the kids make a few dollars themselves. And that's been really neat. You know, it's been really neat getting to know some of the guys from other schools that I probably wouldn't get a chance to know in a way that I'm getting to know them now. So that's been a lot of fun. They're playing at A.L. Brown tonight. And actually, I was at a press conference there, and I was actually born in Kannapolis. That's where my mom is from. My daddy was teaching down in Summerville, South Carolina at the time. And you know, back in the 50s, they didn't have the cell phones and all that. And my mom had a couple of brothers and a couple of sisters back in Kannapolis, and just in case I was ready to, to make my appearance when my daddy was at school, she went back to Kannapolis to have me, and I was born there and spent a night or so there. And then my dad came and got us when we went back to Summerville, South Carolina. And that summer, my dad got a job in Frederick Douglass in Elm City, and I lived there until I was maybe 2 or 3. And then we moved to Rocky Mount, and I came up through the Rocky Mountain public school systems and the Rocky Mountain Athletic Department. And it's such a great place to grow up and live. It's a fun story. Bun didn't tell you about this part. Bunny and I, we used to play basketball every weekend, and I have to admit, he was okay. He was a pretty good player. So, and we usually, go over to Bun's house and cook steaks and salad and stuff after we played. So we were over there one Saturday afternoon, and Jonah is with us, his brother, another friend of mine, and Jonah, his brother. And I'd already signed to go to the University of North Carolina. Must have been June or July, something like that at the time. So either Ken or Bun get the idea to go to Chapel Hill. And it's almost about 7 or 8 o'clock then. And, but to make a long story short, about 7 o'clock the next morning, Bun is taking me home. And I had never done that before in my life. And had it been anybody except Ken or Bun, I'd have got my tail burnt. I'm telling you. But we had a great time, and we've been friends, and ever since then. But this is a great place to grow up. It's always good to come back here. When I had the opportunity to come back here or be at A.L. Brown tonight, that was a no-brainer for me. I wish I could come back a lot more. Actually, I will be back here next week, speaking at the high school. But anything that I can ever do for my hometown, man, it's what a great place it's been. Great memories and great people, and people that have stuck by me thick and thin, friends for me. Because, you know, you guys, you guys knew me when I was holding the coats on the sideline. It wasn't good enough to play. You know, you guys knew me when I was over 32. You know, you guys knew me growing up and showed me love and support. And I always appreciate that. You know, I usually don't do this at a crowd like this, but since I'm home, are there any questions that I can answer for anybody?
Bill,
Oh, Lord.
one point that I think people here would find of interest, and guys, he taught this guy everything he knew. That's why his life turned out so well. Tell him who Ken was.
Who's that?
Tell him who Ken was that night.
You sure you want to do that?
Why not? He's retired.
He's the president of a big bank, that's all I say. And the things that those guys did that night, I have never seen before in my life. Ken Thompson. Are there any other questions that I can answer for anybody? Again, Mr. Bullock, thank you for everything that you do for Rocky Mount. Ms. Brewer, thank you. To be rewarded for the Red Cross, and if there's anything you guys can ever do, what a great organization to invest in, not only, like you said, with your time, but your money. This is, they're there with 911. And, you know, I know some guys that went through here, was here during the flood. That's firsthand. You know, when you're touched by something that's hands-on, you know, that's like when you have people with cancer, you know, you have people with heart disease, just different things, but the Red Cross is there all the time. But there's one thing I want to answer, and maybe I don't understand this. You know, the older I get, you know, I kind of watch those war movies, you know, the military channel. Is the Red Cross, where's Rochelle? Okay. Is the Red Cross that truck that they always go out and get the wounded people? Why don't people shoot that?
Very quickly, that's under international humanitarian law and the Geneva Conventions. As a condition of war, nations sign the Geneva Conventions and say they will honor the wounded and dying, those captive and those civilians, will not engage them in the conflict. The biggest challenge we have in the world today is that we're not warring nations with the terrorist units and all. They do not abide by those Geneva Conventions where the U.S. military is required to. So when you see a ship or a truck or a bus, they're using that Red Cross emblem indicating they're not engaged in the battle or the war, but they're for humanitarian efforts on both sides because they're there to take care of humanity. And once you're wounded, once you're dying, once you're taken prisoner, you're no longer a combatant, you're a human.
Also, before I get down to, I want to thank, you know, the policemen that are here. You know, every time I see a policeman, I like to thank them for everything that they do to keep me safe, just like I'd like to thank the military people for everything that they do. But lastly, it's just great to be home, and I'll be around a little afterwards to talk to people. I'm going back to Raleigh tonight. I will drive through Rocky Mount a little bit and look at old places before I go home. But it's great seeing a lot of you that I do remember, and you know, I was just thinking about it. It's been over 40-some years since I've lived here, but man, it still seems like yesterday. So thank you so much for everything, and Rochelle, thanks for being here.
Goosebumps. So thank you for sharing that. I get goosebumps every time we talk about the Red Cross. A lot. Moving into the conclusion of our evening, I would like to introduce to you a friend, a very intricate asset to our board, as well as the reason why we are working with all 28 schools in Nash County with Change for Change, getting our children involved and educated on what the American Red Cross does. And that person is Dr. Eric Cunningham, and he is the Associate Superintendent of Administration and Operation for Rocky Mount Nash Schools.
There are two things, you know, this is the first time many of you have ever heard me, but I have 5 B's. Some of you know what they are. Be brief, brother, be brief. But right now I'm going to try to lay my 5 B's aside, if I could be so kind. And I would just like to say this. There are 2 things that when I was growing up, everybody on the playground wanted to do. Number 1, everybody played for Dean Smith. We all played for Dean Smith. And every single guard thought they were Phil Ford. So now I can tell my kids I was on the floor with a legend. And I'm not lying. I became intimately involved with the Red Cross this past winter. You know, as Rochelle has said, I am the Associate Superintendent for Administration and Operations, and part of my job is preparedness. We drill. We drill on everything. I believe practice makes perfect. So we're drilling and we're drilling. And one of the things that we had to drill for was inclement weather. Inclement weather. So we're drilling and we have our plans and we have everything in place at the schools, and we go home for the weekend. And I get a call early Saturday. It was snowing, we knew it was coming, but we were prepared. But I get a call early Saturday morning, and my phone rings, and I answer the phone. It's emergency management team from Nash County. And hello? Everybody's safe. I mean, school's closed, we're okay. Hello? Dr. Cunningham? This is so-and-so. We need to open up one of your schools for a warming shelter. Hello? Yeah. Hello? Dr. Cunningham. We need to open up one of your schools for a warming shelter. My eyes pop open. I look over to the side and I hear the music. Da, 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 da. This is not a drill. I then have to get up. I call my team. We get 2 or 3 buses, and we have to shuttle over to Middlesex and evacuate apartment complex. So we're over at Middlesex, and we're evacuating the apartment complex, and trees are down, ice is everywhere, power is out. Well, you know, you were there. You know, so power's out for thousands of people on the Nash side of the county, and we have to get them over to Spring Hope Elementary School. And I am scared. I am nervous. It's treacherous conditions. So I arrive over at Spring Hope, and guess who's there waiting? The Red Cross. They're there. They have blankets, they have carts, they have coolers full of ice for the elderly to put their diabetic medicine in. They had everything ready. They even had money to go out and give food for the evacuees. They went through, they checked out the school, and we just went through the entire procedure. So what I had an opportunity to see was it worked, the work actually in progress. And I felt relieved, and so did the people, the folk from Middlesex. They were just happy. They were happy all night as they stayed in the warming shelter at Spring Hope. There are 3 things I learned tonight from Mr. Bullock, Ms. Brewer, and Phil Ford, is that we all need to assist each other. There's one thing that separates every single one of us, but it will one thing that will bring us all together, and that's a natural disaster. And I had an opportunity to see how we all come together when a natural disaster strikes, and when that second call is made to the American Red Cross. But right now, we need you to assist. And we need you to assist because charity begins at home. As Rochelle has said, many of the funds have been depleted, working with us, working on our side of town. And we need your help. And I'm standing here on behalf And it's a great honor to be here to ask that you help. That you help. You have in front of you a hero's card. You have in front of you a hero's card where it says that your donation helps our community. And what it says is that you can pick anything that you like. And I want to ask that you all take a card and that you all just take a moment and think about what can you do for our community, because with so many things that are happening, you see what happened in Houston, you see what's happening all around us. It's just not when, it's not if, it's now when. And these funds will allow us to respond appropriately. So as you consider your donation for our community, please just take a moment and think about what it is that you can do for the American Red Cross. I have seen people give up to $5,000. Now, it is my understanding that $1,200 covers a family of 4. $1,200 covers a family of 4. $5,000 will cover 16 people. $5,000 will cover 16 people. And if you could just reach down and consider giving $5,000, could you just nod your head? Just nod your head. How about 3,000? That'll cover 2 families of 4. That would be awesome as well. Or maybe you can't do that, you could do 1,500. That's awesome. Or 750, 500, 250, whatever you can do. Now, you may not be able to do anything, but you can pray for them. You can pray for the American Red Cross. You can keep us in your thoughts and prayers as you go forward, and you can tell everyone in your community to support the American Red Cross. So as we leave today, I just want you to complete your card and leave it on your table. And I would like for everyone to stand at this time. And Eleanor, where are you? Eleanor is back there with the basket. If you can just fill out your card and fold it, and you can drop it off in Eleanor's basket. And we'll be deeply, deeply grateful. But if you can just do this, and I just feel led to do this, can you just reach out and hold someone's hand for me one time? Just please. Just do that for me. Now, I'm a Liberty boy. I went to Liberty University, y'all. All right, is that all right? I went to Liberty University. And this is how we did it. And I just want us to sing this simple stanza 3 times. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Come on now. Make this world a better place if you can. One more time. Reach out and touch. Come on. Somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. One more time. Reach out and touch. Come on.